What if the happiest moment of your life was also the beginning of your deepest heartbreak? He was just a boy, quiet, hopeful, and tired of waiting. The orphanage was all he had ever known. Every creak of the gate, every shadow of an approaching car made his heart race with hope. Maybe this time it was someone for him. Then one day it happened. A couple walked in, smiling warmly. Papers were signed, pictures were taken, and just like that, he was chosen, adopted, loved, or so he thought. This is the story of a boy who found a family only to be abandoned again. It is about trust broken, hearts bruised, and the quiet strength it takes to rebuild from nothing. Because sometimes the deepest scars are the ones no one can see. He was 5 years old when he first arrived at the orphanage, too young to understand what orphan meant, but old enough to feel its weight. The rooms were always full, not with laughter, but with waiting. Waiting for visits, waiting for names to be called, waiting for love. He saw other children come and go. Some cried when they left, others could not wait to run into their new parents' arms. And every time someone else was chosen, he would stand by the window forcing a smile. The staff said he was polite, well-behaved, and quiet. He kept his bed neat and helped the younger children. He thought if he was easy to love, maybe someone would notice him. But year after year, the door never opened for him. He learned not to get too excited during visiting days. Hope became a game he was not very good at. But deep down, that dream still flickered. A real family, a real home. He did not want toys or gadgets. He just wanted someone to tuck him in and mean it. Then came the day that changed everything. The couple was different. They did not just glance around. They knelt beside him, looked him in the eyes, and asked questions that no one else ever had. What do you like to draw? Do you have a favorite song? For the first time, he felt seen. They came back a week later with gifts, a small backpack, new shoes. And when they told him he was coming home with them, he did not believe it until he was in the car, holding their hands. Their home was warm, full of color. He had his own room with stars painted on the ceiling and a bookshelf filled with bedtime stories. They laughed at his jokes, took pictures of him eating ice cream, introduced him as our son. He tried his best to be perfect. He helped set the table. He memorized their favorite shows. He drew a family picture and taped it to the fridge. He finally let himself believe, this is it. This is what love feels like. The first few weeks were magic, but soon, things began to change. The mother stopped reading bedtime stories. The father started coming home later. He was told to go play by yourself more often. Smiles faded, voices grew sharper. The warmth in the house cooled into polite silence. He tried harder, drew pictures, helped more, stayed quiet. But one night when he had a nightmare and knocked on their bedroom door, they did not open it. They told him to go back to bed. He felt something shift. He was no longer being hugged, just patted on the head. He was no longer our son in front of guests, just the boy. He overheard arguments. He saw the packed suitcase in the closet. His suitcase. A quiet fear began to grow inside him. What if they do not want me anymore? It happened suddenly. One evening, the father simply said, "We are going for a drive." No words, no warmth, just silence and a packed bag. When the car pulled into the orphanage driveway, his heart dropped. "We are just stopping by," the mother said, avoiding eye contact. But he knew. They walked him inside, said a few things to the staff, then turned around and left. No hug, no goodbye, just gone. He sat on the same bed where he once dreamed of family, but now everything felt colder. The bag at his feet felt heavier than before, not because of what it carried, but because of what it meant. He had been returned, like something defective, something broken. He did not cry that night. He just lay in bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, waiting for a door that would never open again. He stopped talking. He stopped hoping. He started believing he had done something terribly wrong. Maybe he was too loud, or not loving enough. Maybe he was not good enough to keep. He folded into himself, walking with his eyes on the floor. Other children stopped asking him to play. He was the one who got returned, and he did not correct them. He barely touched his food. He did not cry. Crying would mean admitting it hurt, and he did not want anyone to see that pain. One child asked, "Did you not get adopted?" He nodded. "Then why are you back?" He did not answer, because he did not know. Every night he pulled the blanket over his head and whispered, "Next time, I will not mess it up." But what he did not know was this. Healing was coming, quietly, slowly, in the form of someone who would not give up on him. Miss Clara was new, soft-spoken, gentle, and unlike anyone else, she did not ask questions right away. One afternoon, while he sat alone in the corner, she placed a small sketch pad beside him and said, "You do not have to draw, but it is here if you want." He did not respond, but the next day he opened it. At first, just shapes, then a tree, then a boy beneath it. Miss Clara did not make a big deal of it. She just said softly, "He looks brave." That word stuck. Brave. Little by little, he began drawing again. Not families, not houses, just quiet places. Safe places. Places where he could exist without fear. He began speaking again, in small sentences. He helped younger children with puzzles. He even laughed once when another boy made a silly face. Healing did not mean forgetting. It meant slowly learning that love does not always leave, and that he was never to blame. Months passed. He joined an art group. At first, he sat in the back, silent, sketching, watching. But over time, his drawings grew bolder, fuller. He painted a red door with warm yellow light spilling from it. Miss Clara asked, "Is that your old house?" He shook his head. "Number, that is my future house." For the first time, he was not waiting for someone to love him. He was learning to love himself. He stopped fearing every goodbye. He stopped blaming himself for being left. He started mentoring other children, not by preaching, but by listening, because he knew what silence felt like. His voice grew stronger, so did his smile. Not everyone who came into his life stayed, but he learned this: the ones who do matter more than the ones who do not. This story is not just about a child who was adopted and then abandoned. It is about what happens after the worst thing, when healing feels impossible, but still begins anyway. It reminds us that love is not a favor. Adoption is not a trial period, and children are not objects to return when life gets hard. To anyone watching, if you choose to love a child, mean it. Mean it on the hard days. Mean it when they test you. Mean it when they do not yet know how to love you back. Because for them, forever is not a word. It is a promise. And to those who have been left behind, like this boy, you are not broken. You are not too much. You are not unlovable. You are still here. And that means there is still a future waiting, one you get to build.